you to
I'm
be.
not going to admit anything.
I don't
want to
expect
admit.
you are, because you
Okay.
guys are so
Okay. Let
stubborn.
me
You
tell
want.
you something.
I don't expect you.
Honestly,
No,
I think
let me tell
I
you
think you're.
something. Let me tell you something. Let me tell you something. MAGA, I have a question for you, Al.
Yes, sir.
You say you're a law and order guy. I've heard you say that before. You say you're pro-police and you back the blue. I've heard you say that before. Then why would you vote for a guy that pardons people who beat police officers? Like that can help me
Yeah.
understand that, Al.
Well, I know. Well, the thing is that, uh, first of all, that you're switching the subject in a
No, I'm
sense.
not. Whoa, whoa,
So
whoa,
I
whoa, whoa,
really,
whoa, whoa, whoa. Hold
no,
on.
no, no. You are.
He
No.
defined himself.
No. Hold on a second, Al. Al, I am not hanging up on you. Stay on the line, and I want to give you the opportunity. I am not changing the subject. You started the phone call by saying you were back the blue pro police. I'm talking about backing the blue pro police. Guess what, Al? I back the police. Doesn't mean I don't call out bad cops like Derek Chauvin. I mean, listen, Leonard would do the same. I've heard him do the same. I'm asking you a very specific question about backing the blue with law and order. You started the conversation by saying that. I ask you again, if you claim that you back the blue and you're a law and order guy, then why would you support the guy that literally pardoned a bunch of January 6th insurrectionists that beat cops? Al, I'm not changing the subject. Please answer the question.
No, you are changing the subject because I called in to talk about the bill.
Well, guess what?
Okay.
I'm not going to sit here and talk about a $2 DMV bill.
And plus, a police officer can't really attest to a dollar surcharge from DMV. That's not really something.
Al, I let you ask Leonard the question. Leonard answered the question. I didn't interrupt. Now answer my question. The reason why you don't answer my question, you call yourself a law and order guy. Why won't you answer the question? There are people that beat police officers on January 6th with their own batons. People have traumatic brain injury, and your orange leader pardoned those people. Why can't you just say, I don't agree with it, it was wrong, it was horrible? What is wrong with you? Why can't you just admit that?
What was wrong and horrible? What are you talking about? What was wrong and horrible?
Well, you're kind of being hypocritical.
I will repeat myself again, and Al, with respect.
Okay, why am I being hypocritical?
Al, with respect.
Okay, now if you don't...
Al, I'm going to answer your question. You just asked me a question. Got him down. Was that a rhetorical question? Get the MAGA wax out of your ears. I will repeat the question again for a third time. You claim you're back the blue. You claim you're law and order. Those were the first words out of your mouth in this phone call. I did not interrupt you. If you claim you're back the blue, then why would you vote for a guy that called those people hostages and patriots and pardoned them? Please answer the question directly.
Okay, when do I get to answer what the policeman said? Because I don't agree with. I want to rebuttal his response.
Okay.
Please answer my question, Al. I understand you don't like my question. Please answer it, and then we can continue the conversation. Go ahead, Al.
Okay, so what was your question again?
For the fourth time, I will quickly repeat it. You started this phone call. You claim that you are law and order. You claim you're back the blue. I didn't interrupt you. My question to you is, if you are back the blue, then why would you support a president who defined those who beat police officers on January 6th as patriots and hostages and pardoned them? Do you have a problem with that, and will you call that out?
I don't think that he should have pardoned all of them. Okay, some of those guys did serve their time. Okay, and I don't 100% agree with that decision, but it's not a deal breaker for all the other things that Donald Trump is going to represent. So I don't 100% support that. That's my answer. Now, can I talk to the police?
No, hold on a second. I'm going to respond to what you just said. You don't 100% agree. I am specifically, you said that you're back the blue. What would you have said if Joe Biden pardoned people who beat cops? Would you have answered it the same way? Well, I don't 100% agree with it, but it's not a deal breaker for me. All right, fair enough. You're a law and order guy. Let's switch to law and order for a moment. When a federal judge rules a certain way, and Donald Trump and Caroline Leavitt attack the judge's family, call him a lefty radical judge when he was appointed by George W. Bush, You claim to call yourself law and order. Is that a responsible president of the United States?
What
Judge?
What judge are you in particular talking about?
I'm amazed that you don't know the judge that I am talking about here, but the judge that I am referring to is the specific judge that ruled against the Trump administration when it came to deporting these people that they are calling gang members. He is a federal judge, and he was appointed by George W. Bush. Donald Trump has called him a lefty radical judge. Caroline Leavitt today said he was appointed by Barack Obama. He was not. He was appointed by George W. Bush. The reason why, Al, I'm bringing this up with you is because you started this conversation saying you were, quote, for law and order. Would you say you support a law and order president who attacks personally every single judge that rules against him? Is that law and order?
You can't be both.
Is that law and order, sir?
Okay, now I got the policeman should be speaking. You guys,
it sounds like you're developing a Joe Biden stutter, sir. It sounds like a MAGA stutter.
Okay, no, excuse me, no. First of all, you're changing the subject.
No, I'm not changing the subject. Cut him down again. You're the one who started this conversation saying that
he qualified himself.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you, Leonard. He said he was law and order and pro-police. I just said, how could you support a guy who pardons people who beat cops? You said, well, I don't 100% agree with that, but let's talk about something else. That's called deflection and pivoting. Then I went to the law and order statement. I said, how do you feel supporting a guy who personally attacks every judge that rules against him and defies court orders? And that now you're getting defensive and saying I'm changing the subject. Guess what? Don't start a phone call by saying you're law and order and pro-police when you are a hypocrite and you voted for the guy who is anti-police based on his behavior. You vote against the guy that's anti-law and order based on his behavior. Al, why don't you just admit that you should not have voted for Donald Trump and you made a terrible mistake since you claimed you're law and order and back the blue? Why don't you admit that?
Well, I'm not going to. I don't know what you want me to admit. First of all, I still support Trump.
Here's what I want you to admit. Here's what I want you to admit, Al, and I'm
not going to admit anything.
I don't expect you are because you guys are so stubborn. You want. I don't expect you. No, let me tell you something. Let me tell you something. Let me tell you something. MAGA, you're the people who won't admit anything. Donald Trump could shoot somebody on Fifth Avenue and you'd still call him your messiah. Donald Trump pardoned a bunch of January 6th insurrectionists who beat cops, and you still have the gall to call yourself back the blue. Donald Trump is the guy who attacks every judge, including a federal judge, who literally rules against him, and he personally attacks them, and you have the gall to call into the show and call yourself law and order.
Let's let him ask the question.
Yeah, go ahead. Ask your MAGA question, Al. Go ahead.
This is going to be brilliant.
Yeah.
Okay, the question was, you mean to me, are you asking me to rebuttal your response to
You said you had a question for me.
You can't rebuttal anything, so just ask your question.
My question is that you don't think that charging a $1 fee to dispose of these cars that are out there that are really
you seem like you're anti-police to me.
Okay, well, I think, you know what? I think you're an idiot.
So let me get this right.
But isn't that where their argument always ends up?
Yeah.
I mean, Scott Jennings says it in a more eloquent way, right? Because he's on TV. But isn't that where it always ends up?
Leonard, let's get this straight here for a second, okay? We talk about a lot of important issues. You and I talk about a lot of serious issues. There's the war in Ukraine where innocent people are dying, the Israel-Palestinian conflict, the issue with Hamas, the ceasefire that was broken, our economy, the fact that women can't do what they want with their own bodies, people are getting laid off all over the country.
Civil rights.
Civil rights. And this imbecile calls into this show and wants to have a long conversation about how the DMV supposedly might be charging an extra $1.
$1 for a recycle fee or something.
Folks, I think we all know who the real idiot is in that phone call. You're an idiot, Al. You're an imbecile. You're just an imbecile. Yeah. You are. Yeah. You're a patriot, Al. Get the hell off my show.
Okay, Brian, first of all, I don't want to start getting all yelling. We are eventually going to start yelling at each other because I know us. And you're going around saying that you don't support violence.
No, I don't.
And what about all of these people in LA throwing rocks at the police?
What did I say about those people? And what did I say about those people? What did I say about those people?
Well, you're saying you're supporting them.
When did I say I support people throwing rocks at officers? See, this is why I get.
So if you don't support them,
This is why.
hold on.
No, you hold on. You just made an assumption, Al, about me. And guess what? I'm not going to scream at you, even though I should. I have said every single day I'm on the radio that I don't support any form of violence. Never have I ever said that, and never I will. But you know who does support violence, Al? Can I give you a hint? He puts on 8 layers of orange makeup, and he's the guy who you voted for. Do you know why? Hold on. It's not okay.
I let you speak.
No, first of all, you didn't let me do anything. It's my show and not yours, Al, okay? I called the shots, not you. That's number one. Number two, the man who you voted for pardoned people who beat police officers on January 6th. So you want to make a judgment about me that is wrong and not true. Why would you vote for a guy who supports people beating police officers on January 6th? Not only did he pardon them, but he called them patriots and hostages. Are you willing to call out your orange leader, the man who you voted for?
Well, I'm going to be calling out the people over in LA.
Answer my question. No, you're going to, Al, you're going to answer my question, and then I will let you continue, okay? Do you support Donald Trump, who has called people who beat cops on January 6th hostages and patriots? You see, because it doesn't fit your narrative, you don't want to answer the question. But now you made a judgment.
You're a hypocrite.
Oh, I'm a hypocrite. You're the guy who calls into this show and says you're not for violence. I tell you, never have I ever condoned violence in any way, shape, or form. In fact, when it came to what happened in LA, I said, anybody who broke the law, I want them held to the highest extent of the law. But you're the guy who won't call out Donald Trump for pardoning a bunch of January 6th insurrectionists, some of whom beat cops. So, Al, remind me again who the hypocrite is.
You are the hypocrite.
Why am I the hypocrite?
Call out the Democratic Party.
Why am I a hypocrite?
Hey,
Al, give me an example.
I'm telling you, I just told you, you can't hear?
What? Give me an example. No, you claim that I'm okay with people throwing rocks and violence at protests.
Why don't you call it up? Okay.
I just did, you stupid fool. Okay. I just did.
Okay. Why don't you call out Nancy Pelosi and all those other people for allowing their and Maxine Waters for allowing that kind of behavior in Los Angeles?
Okay, so you didn't respond to what I just said about Donald Trump. Nancy Pelosi. How did Maxine Waters allow it?
I will respond to Donald Trump.
Wait.
I want to respond. Okay, now you want me to hold on. Go ahead.
What did Maxine Waters say? What did she do to support violence in LA? Can you please tell me?
She said, I don't see any violence out there when I'm watching rocks getting thrown over the 101 freeway.
She never said.
I grew up in Los Angeles.
No. You're not going to, first of all, you're not going to get away with that. Just because Maxine Waters didn't see it doesn't mean that she condones it. You're too dumb to understand the difference. Now let's go to Nancy.
Wait a minute. That's your district.
I'm not going to wait a minute. I'm not going to wait a minute. Just because she said she didn't see it with her own eyes doesn't mean that she condones it. What do you think is worse? What do you think is worse? What do you think is worse? Why don't you be quiet?
Let me answer your Trump question.
I gave you 3 opportunities. What do you think is worse? Maxine Waters, who says she didn't see anybody throwing rocks, or Donald Trump, who calls people hostages and patriots who beat cops? Why don't you answer that question?
Okay. Ask the question one more time, please.
Are you serious?
I wasn't paying attention.
I know, Al. You don't. I know, Al.
Hypocrisy.
Understand, Al. I know you don't pay attention to a lot of things. You watch your Newsmax and your OAN, and you're ill-informed. I know you laugh because you know it's true. Let me ask again. Why don't you be quiet? Let me ask again. What do you think is worse? What do you think is worse? Maxine Waters, who made a statement that she didn't see anybody throwing rocks, or Donald Trump, who called people who beat cops on January 6th hostages and patriots? What do you think is worse?
Okay. I think those people, those small group of people that
didn't ask you the group. I didn't ask you about what you thought about what they did. I asked you what you think is worse. Answer the question.
Well, I'm answering the question right now. I think it was wrong for those people.
Didn't ask you if you thought it was wrong. I didn't ask you if you thought it was wrong.
Okay.
I'm going to ask the question again. This is why I get frustrated, Al. This is now the 3rd time. I'm giving you the opportunity to answer it. You're not answering. I didn't ask you if it was wrong. Anybody with an IQ over 20 with a moral compass would say it's wrong, okay? Unless you're Donald Trump. What do you think is worse? You called into this show and you had a problem with Maxine Waters allegedly saying that she didn't see anybody throwing rocks, which I'm sure she's telling the truth. Not everybody saw it. What do you think is worse? Maxine Waters saying she didn't see anybody throwing rocks, or Donald Trump calling people who beat police officers on January 6th hostages and patriots and giving them a pardon? What do you think is worse? I'm not asking you what you think is wrong.
I think it's the most stupidest question that has no relevance.
Answer the question. It does have no. I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why it does have relevance, because you're not smart enough to understand. Here's why it has relevance. You called into this show because you claim you don't like violence. You support Donald Trump and you voted for him. You're so upset that allegedly Maxine Waters made a statement that she didn't see anybody throwing rocks. She didn't condone the violence. She didn't call those people patriots and hostages, and she didn't pardon them. The guy who you voted for pardoned people who beat cops on January 6th. Why won't you answer that question? What is worse? This is now the fourth time I'm asking you.
The one that's worse is Maxine Waters.
Okay, well, then you're an idiot. Then you're a complete idiot. You just said on this show that you think it's worse that Maxine Waters said she didn't see anybody throwing rocks, and you're claiming that is worse than giving pardons to people who beat cops on January 6th. Al, you're a complete imbecile. You're an idiot. Why don't you just admit you're a biased buffoon and you're an imbecile? And why don't you go back? Why don't you crawl back into your stupid MAGA hole and listen to your right-wing talk shows in Las Vegas with 5 listeners? Okay, pal? Why don't you do that? Because every time you call into this show, you embarrass yourself. And instead of like a normal human being that says, boy, I disagree with Donald Trump's pardons. What Donald Trump did was wrong. Those people are not hostages. They're not patriots. You go after the black woman. Why is that, Al? Why is that? Is it because you're an imbecile? Is it because you're not capable of answering a question honestly? Or maybe both, Al? Which one is it, pal? Which one is it? Yeah, have a nice day.
What it is that I'm in tune with the reality.
Yeah, you're in tune with reality. The guy who just said that Maxine Waters claiming that she didn't see anybody throwing rocks is worse than the president of the United States calling somebody a hostage and a patriot who beats a cop. You're an idiot, Al. You're an imbecile. You're just an imbecile. Yeah. You are. Yeah. You're a patriot, Al. Get the hell off my show. You imbecile. You MAGA fool, you. You are a moron and an idiot. And remember, every single time I say that on this show, I'm not saying that about every person that voted for Donald Trump, but I'm certainly talking about people like you. You're a jackass, and I hope you get deported to Gaza.
I came across your show here on YouTube, and I just have to disagree with some of the stuff you say. The way you talk about people that vote for Donald Trump is just deplorable.
What did I say?
What
did I say?
You say people that have a different opinion, you call them morons.
Never said that. Never said that. Nope. Never said that. You're absolutely wrong. You're characterizing me as saying that every single person who voted for Donald Trump is a moron or a buffoon. I never said that, sir. I've never categorized every single person that voted for Donald Trump that way. So what you're saying is factually inaccurate. So if you'd like to have a real debate or conversation about what you disagree with me on, I'm happy to do that with you. But never have I ever generalized every single person who voted for Donald Trump as a buffoon or moron. So you're wrong.
All right. Well, what area that I do disagree with you heavily on is you're talking about Trump bringing the National Guard to Washington, D.C.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that is such a great thing. He did it in Los Angeles. We need to see more of it. Because
So what are they trained to do? Are they trained to have people abide by the law? What's their training skills, sir?
They're cleansing the country from the sin.
Didn't ask you if they were. I didn't ask you if they were cleansing the country or not. That's your opinion. I asked you a question. What are they trained to do? They're not trained to cleanse the country. Are they trained to do what local law enforcement are trained to do, which is make arrests and uphold the law? Is that what they're trained to do, sir?
Not necessarily.
No, it's not. No, it's not necessarily. The answer is no, not necessarily. So let's go with that for a moment. We obviously disagree, and that's fine. So you agree with me that the stats clearly show, according to Caroline Leavitt and Kash Patel, that crime is way down in D.C., especially violent crime, lowest since it's been in the 1960s. So you agree with that, right?
I don't. There's all these savages running wild there, and all these.
There's all these savages running. There's all these savages running wild. I didn't ask you if your opinion was on how many savages you think are running wild. I would assume you don't even live there. The question was, do you agree with Caroline Leavitt and Kash Patel that crime is way down in D.C.? It's a yes or no answer, sir. I didn't ask you about savages. I don't care what your opinions are on savages. Do you agree that crime is down in D.C. 30%?
Yes, I do agree.
Okay,
with that.
okay. Thank you for answering that question. So by your standards, in the last 2 years, violent crime is down in D.C. 30%, the lowest it's been since the 1960s, yet you're still okay with Donald Trump calling in the National Guard that are not trained to deal with the homeless people, that are not trained to deal with people that just break the law to uphold the law. So by your standards, you would say that the National Guard should be called out to every large city in the country then, right, sir? According by your standards.
Absolutely.
So the National Guard, so by your standards, the National Guard should be in every single city in the country. Do you want martial law, sir? Is that what you want?
I just want some order.
You want some order. So you think, would you call January 6th order? Why didn't he call in the National Guard on January 6th?
Because it was a peaceful event. I mean,
that wasn't a peaceful event. 140 officers were injured. You saw the videos of police officers being beaten with your own batons. Are you really that ignorant? You see, when I use the term buffoon and moron, I'm talking about people like you. You just said that it was peaceful. People died that day, and 140 officers were injured. There are officers that have traumatic brain injury from that day. There are officers that lost fingers. And how dare you be so stupid as to call that day peaceful? It was not peaceful, sir, and you clearly have no idea what you're talking about. So when I use the term buffoon and moron, keep in mind, every time I say it, I'm talking about people like you. There was nothing about January 6th that was peaceful, okay? There were over 800 violent criminals that day, some of whom beat police officers with their own baton and pepper sprayed officers. How dare you make an ignorant, stupid statement like that January 6th was peaceful? So you think there are all these hoodlums walking around in D.C., even though you don't live there, but you don't think Donald Trump should have called out the National Guard on January 6th because you think that was peaceful. Is that your claim, sir?
It was a peaceful demonstration.
All right, then you're an idiot. Then you're an idiot. Get off my show. Then you're a complete idiot. You are an idiot. Do I stutter? 140 officers were injured that day. People died that day. A woman was trampled that day. Officer Sitnick died the next day. Officers committed suicide, and 140 officers were sent to the hospital, some of whom now have to struggle with traumatic brain injury. You are a moron and an idiot. And remember, every single time I say that on this show, I'm not saying that about every person that voted for Donald Trump, but I'm certainly talking about people like you. You're a jackass, and I hope you get deported to Gaza.